In the heart of Virginia, there's a stretch of pavement that has ingrained itself in American racing history. Built in 1957 with just a bulldozer and a plot of land, Virginia International Raceway has become an icon. Over the years since its reopening in 2000, it has hosted IMSA, the American Le Mans Series, NASCAR, SCCA, and Champ Car races. Legends have raced there, including Roger Penske, Mark Donohue, Richard Petty, Hurley Haywood, Dan Gurney, and more. Between turns 11 and 12 stood a defying feature, an old oak tree. This tree stood untouched, shading the south end of the course for decades. For some, oak tree became a symbol of VIR and a reminder of how road courses used to be built. They used to be built with the lay of the land, following each contour and moving around obstacles, not through them. Earth may have been moved, but not tarnished. Oak tree was a lasting memory of when tracks were not just built, they came to be, like the tree. Although oak tree no longer stands, nor does Hog Pen, turn 17, the corners both still bear the name of what used to exist. And the track stays unchanged the way it was meant to be, with the lay of the land, for the land. Maybe that's why Paul Newman called it heaven on earth.
Virginia International Raceway opened in 1957, literally located right on the Virginia-North Carolina border. Its first race was an SCCA event won by no less a legend than Carroll Shelby, who afterwards uttered, "One lap at VIR is like 100 at Watkins Glen." With that, the legend of VIR was born. It was a hugely popular venue throughout the 1960s, but its remote location led to it closing in 1974, reverting to farmland for 25 years. Then, in 1998, two real estate investors resurrected the facility, and their concept was downright visionary. In the year 2000, VIR reopened, having been transformed into America's first motorsports resort. But the best news of all was the track itself, other than being repaved and slightly widened, remained unchanged. Now the venue is equally beautiful as the track is daunting, a challenge to its very core. Tonight, this motorsports playground hosts round 5 of this third season of the 2023 Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championships. Hi folks, I'm Greg Creamer, and welcome to the track that one P.L. Newman referred to as heaven on earth. Wonderful as always to have Kyle Heyer joining me again tonight. And Kyle, I know you recently over the summer made your first ever visit to VIR. Was Mr. Newman right?
Was he ever, Greg? This was a racetrack that I just didn't really understand just from a sim environment, but the first time I got to go, which was this June, I was just blown away. I finally understood why Paul Newman called it heaven on earth. This place is so fast. It's so flowing. It is so beautiful. Motorsports Playground is putting it lightly, Greg. This is, I think, one of the premier facilities in North American road racing. And what a pleasure it is to have a brand new laser scan of this track represented here in iRacing to race on for the Spec Miata series here in the Full Send Sims League.
Absolutely, and you were telling me before we came on the air that some adjustments made to how iRacing works in terms of some of these surfaces, hugely important for this one. They made a change to how the grip is on the grass.
Yeah, that was one of the big things that iRacing hadn't put a lot of energy or effort into is off-track handling, grass and gravel in particular. And while there's not much of the ladder here, there's not a lot of gravel, there certainly is a lot of grass. There is more grip than there has been lately, so that should help drivers dipping off track. It does not mean that you're safe when you drop 4 tires off, especially heading up over roller coaster or maybe down through a hog pen. It's still a high velocity area. You can still find your way to the wall, but you're going to have a little bit more grip to give yourself the best possible chance of recovering before you hit those tire bundles, Greg. But as you and I both know, it's a really treacherous racetrack to go off course here because of how much the track slopes away as soon as you leave the asphalt.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, haven't we? That this is a long road course you almost have to drive with street course precision. Even like we just saw right there, a little bit of a move. And in the past, that may have just been an immediate spin and down and off. But because of these changes, it just makes it so much more raceable, I think, because if you do run just that smidge wide, you're going to be okay. That might be taking it to the extreme.
Yeah, that's Nicholas Rice-Budo, I think, letting some traffic on by. There's the 944 of Alex McClellan that has also found his way off course. We're already seeing that it is treacherous, especially on cold tires, Greg. I was actually here practicing with a couple of the competitors here tonight, Olivier Piatek, Nicholas Rice-Budo. I jumped in and drove a little bit with these drivers just to get a sense of how tonight was going to go. And the first lap out of the pits, these tires will not grip. You have to give them a couple of laps before you really feel like you can send the car into the corner and have that lateral grip that you'd expect out of a slick.
Yeah, this is really a track that takes a little time, for that tire temperature to develop, and that just adds to the challenge of it. And believe me, if you're racing here when it's really, really hot out, it is absolutely insane in a lot of ways. And the other thing that's so fascinating about this track is you've got that first sequence of corners from 1 to 6, right? That's really, really technical. Then the blast through the S's, which is pretty much just cinch it up and hold on up into Oak Tree. And again, for all of the great corners here, the legendary Oak Tree turn is still the most important one because it leads you onto that massive long straight down Madison Avenue, as they call it. And then, but that's like 2 fast sections with a tight corner in between. And then you're back into the technical roller coaster down through Hog Pen, which is an incredibly tricky corner to get really right and carry a lot of speed through.
Yeah, it's really single file down through here. You might be able to get side by side in these NC generation Miatas, but it is just tough. You have to nail the line down here. And the curbing that they've added, that yellow and green striped curbing, use all of it plus about 18 inches on either side of it. You really need to get up on the curbs here and be aggressive if you want to carry as much speed as possible. They're pretty flat. You can take them. They're going to buzz and rumble and do all the other things to your suspension, but you have to be on them to be quick. And right now, top time is a 2:14.3 by Nicholas Rice-Budo. Morgan Burkhardt is second, and it's Camden Hibbett, Skip Brock Jr., and Jordan Rickson-Greeny. When I was in there the other day, Greg, the best I could do was at mid-16 with the setup I had. It is a challenging racetrack to go really fast on your own, especially slipstreaming, and that's going to be a big deal here in qualifying. But as you and I discussed before we got into the broadcast, you can't bump draft in qualifying because it will invalidate your lap because of iRacing's safety rating system. So you cannot push just like that. You're going to get yourself in trouble, and the C's part for Rickson-Greeny, and through he goes.
Yeah, but that was a car that I didn't catch the number that went tumbling there as a result of that little bit of contact. And, that's the thing. These cars maybe through these climbing S's, you see the villas up there on the left, maybe side by side. If you're going to be really fast through there, I don't think so. But even in that first section of S's called the Snake, you've got to be careful through there. It isn't as challenging in terms of speed and grip, but it's just narrow enough that you really can't do much passing in there. So this is a spot where a track where you've got to be mindful of the really good passing areas, and there are a couple of spots where you can make some surprise passes. To me, most notably into turn 4, what they call left hook.
Yeah, left hook, that's a great opportunity. See it here, leaving NASCAR Bend, a little bit of runoff. That's all fair game to use here in iRacing, but the surprise pass, I saw this in the Toyota GR86 Cup Series here back in June. Drivers that would kind of make this late dive to kind of sneak underneath. And one driver, Gresham Wagner, who a lot of drivers are familiar with from the MX-5 side of things in sports car racing, would stay behind the leader and kind of surprise the leader every other time. He'd try something different there. Some laps he'd go for it, some laps he wouldn't, and it just created an uncertainty that was harder to beat than just making the move every single lap. So just a really interesting corner. Left hook's a big one. Into Oak Tree, that's pretty tricky, but you can make it work. And the other big one is Roller Coaster, but just like Road Atlanta, Greg, going into the chicane there, I don't know which side is better. It seems like that changes depending on the weather.
Exactly, and as you head into the into Roller Coaster, it feints left that little bit, and then into that right. So if you're going to make a pass there, you've really got to get it set up well. And getting back to that left hook move, I watched I called Mike Skeen make a race-winning pass there in a Mercedes in World Challenge, and he just set it up to absolute perfection. So it can work. But if you get it wrong, if you start your lunge a little late, it ends in tears. So you got to be really mindful of that as you're working around here. As we have a look at Beans Forster, and as he's making his way down the pits, currently 6th. And I was just noting here that the top two, Rice Puto and Burkhardt, this is a track that's over 3 miles long. They're separated by 28 one-thousandths of a second. I mean, this track obviously has a lot of turns to it as well. There's a number of 14As, so there's probably 20 corners and more that aren't counted as parts of S's. And to be only 28 one-thousandths apart is pretty extraordinary.
It is. There's 17 corners technically on the track map, but obviously, realistically, there's a lot more than that.
Exactly.
And you talk to some drivers. I know Tom O'Gorman, his thoughts on this is that it's 3 straightaways with 3 hairpins. And while that might be an oversimplification in many ways, I think what he's getting at is a lot of those corners, like those in Snake, you kind of just treat as a straight line. As you watch this car come through here, just a little bit of a fade in the steering. You're going to straight line over those rumble strips and straighten out that path as much as possible before the run up to the S's.
And that's the point that I was making there in Snake. It's a straight line. It's just, once you get through that little quick flick at 5A, you're just on the hammer, right? But somebody tries to make a pass in there, the way you're fast through there going straight is you're literally straight lining apex to apex, and somebody tries to get underneath you, it's bad. And the problem is coming out of there's that bridge, and if you have contact in the wrong spot, you get into the abutments around there, and it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, it can
that
be.
Bridge right there, yeah.
And this place is one of the places in American road racing where you can have a really big wreck here. I've seen that a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
Despite there not being walls all that close to the racetrack, it's amazing how quickly drivers will find those walls in racing competitions or into each other even. It's just a pretty challenging racetrack wreck. But we are getting ready to grid, and we will have a very full pace lap. So we got plenty of time until we go racing, but obviously give a big shout out to 3P Logistics and Final Turn Motorsports, Greg, as well as Full Send Sims.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, Full Send Sims, the title sponsor of the championship, Cord Schmidt, the owner, envisioned this whole thing, put it all together, and the sims they build are just extraordinary. But a couple of quick updates. Final Turn Motorsports, since this is a race, obviously this is at VIR, the runoffs are at VIR, so we're guessing a lot of people who might be running at the runoffs or thinking about it or whatever are going to be running with us tonight and having some fun with it. But Final Turn is going to be fielding 3 cars at the 60th annual runoffs at VIR. Noah Harmon will be running in both Spec Miata and SMX, which is the Spec MX-5 paid series class, and Rob Bailey in Spec Miata. And Final Turn has created a new cart-to-cars concept that's used for up-and-coming young driver development. They'll help provide young drivers and their parents, and that's key there, the knowledge needed to understand the car racing world in general. They'll give them some help in determining a desired path for that young person and help them navigate to the right car and series. Then they'll work with young drivers wanting to continue in motorsports as a potential career. And you can find out more about all that at finalturnmotorsports@gmail.com. Just send them an email. And 3P Logistics and its owner Frank Rodriguez will be attending the runoff, supporting Final Turn in those programs. They have new driver programs that are available from school all the way to a full competition license. top-notch cars available for 2024 rentals. They'll also be competing at the 2024 runoffs at Road America. So check in with them at info@3p-logistics.com. And just a massive thanks to them for being presenting sponsors and really working with this wonderful program here. And as always to Cord Schmidt. And we're off and running on our pace lap. First of two 20-minute races.
Yeah, two 20-minute races tonight, and there'll be about 9 laps worth of racing. Caleb Patry still chasing Morgan Burkhardt in the championship. 17 points separate them, Greg. But let's roll through our starting lineup and get things kicked off here for our starting grid.
And on the pole, Nicholas Rice-Budo by that huge 28 1/1000ths margin over Morgan Burkhardt, the number 10, number 40 respectively.
And in row number 2, it's Camden Hibbett in the number 132. Will have his on board. Skip Brock Jr. rolls off 4th in the number 32 car.
That might be Skip's best qualifying effort. Starting 5th, Jordan Rixagrini in the 108. Olivier Piatek, who is on form here, starts 6th in that 62.
And in 7th place will be Beans Forster in the number 23. Spencer Conrad rolls off on the outside of row 4 in the number 1.
Really cool looking livery on his car. Caleb Patry will start 9th in his 998, and Josh Soto starts 10th in the number 77.
And 11th place, Eric Howell in the number 25. Jordan Butler rolls off 12th in the number 72.
Starting 13th in the 311 is Jorge Ortiz. Starting 14th, Max Bankin in the 00.
And row number 8, Dean Dibdahl with the number 99 starts 15th place. Rocco Pasquarella starts 16th in the number 95 car.
Starting in the 17th spot in his number 98 is Max Schweid, starting 18th in the 15. Christian Rice-Budo.
And 19th place, Court Schmidt, the number 172. Mike Schmidt starts 20th in the number 531.
Starting in the 21st spot, the number 27 of John Reyes. Starting in the 22nd spot, the 31 of Levi Knupp.
And 23rd place, Jim Friedhofer in the number 89. Alex McClellan, a relatively new name here tonight, starts 24th in the 944 car.
Starting 25th in his number 18 is Dave Brown. Starting in the 26th spot, Charles Vaccaro driving the number 221. 2 more rows. Rich Green starts 27th in the number 22 car, and Wayne Buttermore 28th in the 73. Final row, Greg. Is the 29th starter, Luis Milares in his 08, and Seth Spolman in the number 042 will start 30th. Big field. Yeah, big field again. 30-plus cars. I think we haven't dipped below about, I think this is the smallest field we've had at 30. That's still really impressive. Yeah. It has just been an awesome, awesome group. See a lot of drivers, including the 311 and Jorge Ortiz, really weaving those tires to build some temperature. As I mentioned, this track can get blazingly hot, but you got to get the tires up to temp so that they stick to that hot road. And this looks like he's done that more effectively than most at this stage as we head down the hill into turn 15 at Hog Pen. And when we're done tonight, we have reached halfway, so pretty critical race for everybody that's in those points contentions, as you talked about. And it's pretty close up at the front, so we'll get more into that in a minute. But field coming down, looking for the green flag to get this 20-minute race at this absolutely fabulous venue underway. This is a surprisingly long front straight. You don't realize it, but it bends a couple of times. And so it doesn't always look like it. Somebody poking a nose out there a little bit early. And as always, late green, they're crashing already, Kyle. Yeah, that's holy cow. Big mess, but we're underway now, finally. We're green. Yeah, they really held them, as happens. And I think the number 1 was involved in that, unfortunately. Hate to see that happen. But here we go, down into turn 1. And we'll see who's doing, big spin there. 98. Then, a couple of cars clocking the 98. That's Schweid, isn't it? Yes, it is, and there's a few more. Seth Spolman, Max Bankin. That was a tough start out there, but we're finally through NASCAR, and it looks like Morgan Burkhardt has cycled to the lead. But we didn't really get a chance to talk about it. But turn 1 here at VIR with that long straightaway, late start or not, is tough, and more slipping and sliding here. Yeah, that was Ortiz got just tapped and spun, ended up obviously in front of still a fairly big group. A couple of other cars just nudging him, and a couple others doing a great job of evasive. So it's a tough lap, obviously, and this is what we're talking about here. You get side by each there through that section called the Snake. It's really tough to make it work. Court Schmidt just got widened out there by the number 27 of Jean Reyes. And great job by Court opening the wheel up and not letting that turn in to a big incident. It cost him a couple of spots, though.
Well, he's already up 7 regardless, so
yeah,
big start for him, avoiding a lot of that chaos. There's a big gap, and then we're back to, I think that's the Ortiz car, 18th place and beyond. Only 2 drivers have not gotten back rolling, Max Bank and Christian Rice-Puto. Everyone else got back pointed the right direction.
Ooh, there's a tap and a spin right in front of a couple other cars. Oh. That guy had nowhere to go. That was the 22 of Green, and he had absolutely nowhere to go, and ended up Mike Schmidt, big contact there. So, wow, pretty eventful opening lap. We're not even done with it yet.
Not even. Down through roller coaster, Nicholas Rice-Puto took the lead away on the backstretch over Burkhardt. Skip Brock Jr. with a new livery on the car this week. Then it's Piatek and Rick Singrini. A bit of a 5-car breakaway. And just like last week, Camden Hibbett just on the outside looking in of that front pack battle.
Oh, he's got to be getting really tired of that because he's got such speed here. There's no question about that. And Skip Brock doing a nice job, but you can see already Rice-Puto and Burkhardt just easing away by about a half a second here. And now Rice-Puto pops to the outside. And one thing we didn't really talk about too much about this corner here at all, this first turn, it's a tight entry and then it increases the radius. So if you're good enough to stick around the outside, you can actually make that pay off because you'll be in the right spot leading in to turn number 3.
Yeah, turn 1 is a really tricky corner.
Oh, isn't it?
Especially when you get into some faster cars. The front straightaway kinks so much that you're not even quite straightened out by the time you have to hit the brakes. So it can be an immense challenge, and it's such a tight corner that you don't really expect because that first radius is so small. But then it widens out and you can get back into throttle. Then the entrance into NASCAR bend, that turn 3, the left-hander, that's another braking zone that's slightly kinked as well. This is just a racetrack that's so much more technical when you get into it than it is on the surface.
Absolutely. You look at the map and you go, okay. But yeah, all those little kinks right before corners in braking zones and everything, they just wreak havoc on getting the car settled at times. And the good news is all that little bit of scrapping we had, not really scrapping, but with Rice-Puto going to the outside of Burkhardt and the like, that has allowed now Camden Hibbett to pretty much come into things here. Although Jordan Ricks and Greedy, that was weird. Did he miss a shift?
I think it's either that or he had a slowdown penalty from somewhere. Let's see if we can get a look at it from high above it. Does he cut this inside apex? Maybe.
Yep. Bet that was it.
Take another look at it.
Yeah,
that one was fine, but I think it was at the apex of Oak Tree here.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll get you, Greg. That's enough.
Yes, it will. Got to keep a couple of wheels on the dark stuff. So that's what let him through. And now he's going to have Beans Forster right there, which now maybe isn't the worst thing in the world, because now maybe he and Beans can sort of tag team and work up and catch that group. And Eric Haywell doing a really nice job in that purple car back there. Solid run right from the off, Kyle.
Yeah, not a bad start at all. 11th up to 8th in the first couple of laps. Just behind them, Dean Dibdahl, and I think that is Jim Friedhofer in the number 89. Battle for 12th, sorting itself out here. And this is such a long run down this straightaway. This is probably about the fastest you'll see these cars go, maybe up into roller coaster, a smidge faster. And the draft really makes a difference here in this car, especially this week. In other weeks, maybe not so important, but the run into roller coaster, that is an easy pass if you can get a good lunge out of Oak Tree.
And that's the key. We talk about it. Oak Tree remains the most critical turn here. 1, in terms of a good lap. 2, in terms of an overtake down into the roller coaster. Oh, Morgan getting through the snake. Moved to the left just for a second here and is now tucked right back in again. And here's this glorious run through the climbing S's.
Right in behind Rice-Puto.
Careful pushing somebody there.
Yeah, and even here too, it's hard to see. The track is a little bit off camber right before that left, and I cannot tell you how many times I've dropped right side tires on the turn into turn 10 and thrown my car wildly off track. It's a really fine line to dance on when you're trying to widen out that arc to turn in. You can find yourself off track pretty quick.
Yeah, if you get wide, you can't get it back to the apex. And as you said, turn 10 falls away, and it's wicked quick. And look at this, 3 abreast. Oh, man. getting after it. Yep, that was inevitable. There was going to be some contact there. And folks squaring around. That's the number 1 is Spencer Conrad, who had qualified pretty decently, but he got caught out in that melee at the start. And he's dropped way back in the pack right now. I mean, look at that. Started 8th, dropped to 21st, now up into 17th. But he's just caught in this group back here at this stage.
Beans Forster, Jordan Rixingrini. Jordan again slow here. He's 1 second off of his best lap pace, and I wonder, did he get caught or cutting Oak Tree again? Let's go back a little bit more. But he was ahead of Beans, and right here, does he give up the time on the straightaway, or does he make a mistake a little farther up the road? I think it was the latter.
Yeah, it looks like it, because he never moved over.
Trying to figure out.
Looks pretty good there.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
there it is.
So that must have been for the Oak Tree corner again. So
okay,
just trying to. You have to be aggressive with that apex, because the sooner or the more you can jump it, the earlier you can get on throttle, right? So if you can square it up and really just stomp on the throttle early and point right at that apex and nail it every time, you're going to be carrying a little extra speed. But there's big risk versus reward with that, with iRacing slow down cut system there. So,
well, we've talked about it how many times. This is, basically a spec series, and if you can exit a turn with just that little bit more momentum, it's going to pay big dividends. And if you get it wrong, you're going to be carrying that deficit all the way to the next braking zone. So you're really this is part of that precision we're talking about, and that includes cutting corners and paying the penalty for that. I just love turn 10 here, the way that falls away.
Bean's got a bunny. I didn't know the Beans had a bunny in the background there. But
nice to have some fans there right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. You see him sweating. He's working really hard. The gap up to Camden Hibbett is 1.9 seconds, so he's got some work to do. Hibbett right now just kind of sitting around in the toe, position number 5. So we work our way to minute number 11, which would put us just about halfway.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, the top 5 right now, Kyle, covered by 8/10. So this group up at the front, really, really close and tighty, and nobody making any big crazy moves right now. And again, getting back to that momentum thing, if you do and you overslow significantly, you're just going to lose everything that you've got here. So everybody being so patient, and that's what we're talking about with that hog pen. If you turn in just that smidge too early with hog pen, or you carry just a little bit too much speed, it's so tough to stay on the track at the bottom.
Morgan Burkhardt's rear bumper, $5 per bump. Is that you pay him or he pays you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. But apparently he decided fundraising was more important than Skippy the Wonder Slug.
I guess so. Love the livery on Skip Brock Jr.'s car as well. That kind of slightly pale yellow and the navy blue looks good together.
It does. It does. It caught me out for a minute because we're so used to seeing that other graphic package of his. And, this looks sharp. And right through there, that top 3 able to open up just a little bit. And, that's why Camden Hibbett got through on Piatek.
Oh, yes. So he's up to 4th place now. And moving his way forward. We've gotten on board with Camden as well. And he's always just very clinical looking behind the wheel, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Rixingrini now has caught Forster as well, so they're having their own little battle for that 6th spot. Here's that group of 5, and there they are, just now coming through that tricky turn 10.
Now, if they're smart about this, Greg, they should be able to make up some time on this front group because there's a little bit of that accordion effect. Anytime you have a group of cars that is staying so nose to tail and not willing to make passes, they're playing the game right now. So they're going to be lifting early and braking early. So if you're smart back there with Forster and Rixingrini, you should be able to make some pretty decent time if you've got just the raw pace to keep up with it. Look at Rice-Budo and Burkhardt pushing so hard. They're in the grass up Madison Avenue.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see, Rice-Budo with that push from Burkhardt, cars snaking a little bit and almost had to fight to save it, so he was able to do that. But what happened here?
It's Jim Friedhofer. Ooh. Got up on the curbing and spiked the throttle, and around it went.
That's the thing. If you've got that angle a little bit wrong and you're on the throttle and you hit that curb and bounce, it just lights the rears up. I'm just kind of curious here what that margin is right now. It's about 3 seconds from Piatek right now to Forester.
And we'll see if it comes down.
Keep an eye on that, yeah.
Last time by, they were a touch slower, about half a second slower. There's even a group behind them with Howo, Butler, Dibdal, and Reyes in the number 27.
Then behind them comes Court Schmidt and Jorge Ortiz that are having a nice little scrap for. I think Jorge just got through on Court. Remember, Jorge was involved on that almost periwinkle Sparco car and a couple of things in that opening lap, and he's just fighting himself through the pack here.
Yeah, let's see if we can go back. This is the initial start here. And see if we can pick up.
There it is.
The inside line there. Yeah, it was actually started with, was that Patry?
Patry and Forester seemed to get into each other. And Forester gave a big wiggle, and that knocked Patry around, it looked like, didn't it?
Yeah, we'll have to look at it again.
Yeah.
Again, from high above is the only way I can get it. But the 25 is pushing the 998 into the 23, into the 108. And right there, Rick Singrini moves right, and then that creates that stack up that ultimately sends the one car for a pretty wild ride.
Yeah, and that was, yeah, you're right. Ultimately, it was the 25 that ended up pushing Patry around.
Yep. And
so
Patry is only recovered up to 23rd. Remember, he's the driver chasing Burkhardt in the points, which we mentioned was 17 points between him at the top of the show. And this is not going to put him in the right direction as Morgan Burkhardt runs second right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, behind Patry, the points margins, it's 2 back to Rice Puto, another 2 to Forster, another 5 only to Rick Singrini. That top group of 5 or 6 covered by 26 points. So really, really close here. And what everybody needs to be happening right now, and we talked to Morgan about it at the end of the last race at Road America, that target on his back after 2 championships and leading the points is just getting ever bigger.
Yeah, it certainly is, and so is the gap between Hibbett and Piatek. He's been left behind a little bit, at least this lap. Camden just ran a 2:15.8. He's the driver ahead, and look at him. He's going up the inside for third on Skip Brock Jr. He's not waiting around at all.
Oh, he's not. Now, Skip, as I said, if Skip keeps the line intact, he can just ramp the outside, and he can make this still pay. Get that card pointed to the apex down here in 3. He's got the position, and I think that was a smart move by Camden. If he'd pushed that a little bit farther, they were going to lose complete touch with those 2 guys up front.
Yeah, that was a good call to kind of bail out of the pass at that point. And Forster and Rick Singrini currently still not making time on this front group. So now what was 5 is now 4. And Piatek just clinging to draft on that front 4 group. But even just that slight battle they had going off in a NASCAR, Greg, you see how quickly Burkhardt and Rice Puto put some separation on 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, I mean, the minute you're going side by side, neither of you are driving the absolute fastest line, right? And so you just give up those tiny little increments of speed. And I was looking, that margin had been 4, well, no, it was 3 seconds, correct? Yeah. So actually, Forster and Rick Singrini, even with all that, have lost just a little bit here. And what that did do is it allowed Piatek, who'd lost touch, to get right back into the tow now on the back of Hibbett. Yeah,
and they'll use this draft to close back up, so it'll kind of bring everyone back together for the time being. But we have almost 5 minutes left to go, but that's only 2 laps when we get back to the stripe. So you're down to the final 7 miles or so of decision-making next time by the start-finish line here.
Yeah, and at some point, if you're thinking, I want to win this thing, or if you're Hibbett and Piatek, I want to get to the podium, as Rick Singrini drafting right by on Beans Forster picks up now that 6th spot. Let's see what kind of pace he has, and what kind of pace they have now with him up front.
Yeah, and sometimes all you have to do is switch the leader of that 2-car tango and see which driver's got more pace. They'll tow the trailing driver along versus pushing the lead driver. It's typically quicker to tow somebody along versus push them along. 2 to go.
That little bit of a gap there. It's about 0.4 of a second. Oh! And there he goes again. This time Hibbett trying the outside line. thinking, well, I went to the inside before, and Skip just drove around me. And look at Skip protecting now. And that's going to give those two guys, Riceputo and Burkhardt, even a little bit more of a gap here. So obviously, Hibbett and Skip are now, I hate to say that they're giving up on the win. You hate to see that because they're still pretty close, but they get to scrapping like that. And look at that. I mean, there go those guys up front. That margin now almost half a second back to Skip Brock.
Yeah, it's just amazing how quickly you can go from right on someone's bumper to half a second, 15 car lengths behind just by battling someone for a corner. And that was great on Camden Hibbett to try that outside lane. It almost worked for him. If he had kept overlap on Skip into NASCAR Bend, he probably would have had that spot. But I think you're right, Greg. They're realizing how difficult it's going to be to get by those front two. And really, Camden wants to be P3 to be in that position to pick up the scraps if the two leaders get together, which is in all likelihood a possibility. Big slide for Skip Brock Jr. Had that thing hung out sideways.
Yeah, and so did Morgan as he made that turn. That back end really rotated.
Oh, he has a slowdown, Greg.
That's what happened.
He cut the track.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Unbelievable, and that's going to drop him back into fourth. And Hibbett taking advantage of that little bit of a toe and that movement from Morgan Burkhardt to try and get down the inside of Skip Brock and see if he can make this pass. If he's got the nose ahead here, and he does, it looks like. Got to get over there, close that door.
Oh.
And Burkhardt hit by Piatek. What a save by Morgan Burkhardt. But that was a huge moment there. Great save, Kyle. But that could also be a huge moment in the points.
Yeah, that's going to be a big point swing, especially with Riceputo leading, but it's not done yet. We're under 2 minutes to go. White flag will be waving this time by now. Hibbett, who was sixth, finds himself in second in the catbird seat. But Brock, Piatek, and Burkhardt's not too far back. If they all get together, Greg, who knows what's left?
Absolutely, and just taking a look here, Forster and Ricks and Greeny are not that far back either of Burkhardt at this stage. So see what he's able to do. He's pretty much on his own at this point. But here we go, last lap, white flag. And boy, I'll tell you, Riceputo looking really, really stout here. Hibbett, see the back of that car stepping out just a little bit. There's Burkhardt in the back.
And really, Riceputo is kind of a sitting duck on that back straightaway if Hibbett is within 3 or 4 tenths of a second. Much beyond that, it gets pretty challenging to eat up that ground with the draft. So he's got to stay close. No mistakes on this run up the uphill.
An interesting little flick there that Riceputo had. Didn't really go apex to apex in a straight line. And that may have given up a little bit of that already minuscule margin back to Camden Hibbett. Boy, Hibbett is there now, up through the climbing S's. He's just got to be patient, right, Kyle? Wait. Don't try anything now. Get it done on that back straight.
But you have to nail this run out of Oak Tree and do not cut the corner. We've seen drivers get caught for that all night. You see him check up there. Riceputo tries to back him up, but Hibbett's close enough now. If he plays this draft right, it's going to be a side-by-side into roller coaster, Greg. Which side do you choose? If you're the leader, which side do you choose if you're the attacker?
You can see Riceputo right now trying to cover it by working both sides of the game here, and I'm not seeing Hibbett make up a lot of ground, and Skip Brock could be a big beneficiary here. Riceputo continuing to do the bob and weave. All right, here comes Hibbett. He's on the bumper now. He's going to look to the inside, but he's going to be on the wrong side of the track for this turn. Oh, Riceputo runs just a little bit wide. Hibbett side by side down the hill. If Hibbett can stay put, he's got to stay put around this turn and then have the inside into Hogpen, excuse me. And the number 10 of Riceputo clipped the curb. That opened that up. Piatek knifes through on Skip Brock. Here we come to the line. Burkhardt has closed up. Can Hibbett hang on? There's still drafting opportunity here. To the line they come. It is Hibbett over Riceputo. How close could it be? 1/10 even the margin from Hibbett to Riceputo, and excuse me, now it's changed 98 1/1000ths from Hibbett to Riceputo, and look at that. That's actually a smile from Camden Hibbett.
Wow, well played, Camden Hibbett.
Yeah,
that was.
And he had to be pretty furious. Oh, coming to the line, boy, I'll tell you, Jorge has been a bit of a pinball today.
That's all say.
Unbelievable. But yeah, Hibbett had to be awfully strong around the outside of those corners 15, 16 to be ready for 17 there. That was impressive.
Was that Dad coming in, or I don't know, but that was cool to see.
Yeah, it was.
We'll go back and watch that as soon as the session ticks over. We'll go back and take a look at really a roller coaster down through Hogpen was where all the excitement happened, and you have to place the car in the right spot to take full advantage of that, and that he did. Well done, well executed effort there by Camden Hibbett.
Yeah, look at Forrester and Rick Singrini swapped that position a couple of times on that last lap, I think, with Beans ending up in the 6th spot. Great drive by Dean Dibdahl up into 8th. Eric Haywell into 9th, and Sean Reyes, nice run up into the top 10 in that number 27.
Yeah, nicely done. Court Schmidt up to 12th. He started, I think, back in 18th or 19th, so up 7 for him. Jordan Butler kind of stayed where he was. Spencer Conrad kind of crashed out on the start, basically, and carved his way back up to 14th place. We didn't see a lot of Josh Soto in this race, Greg. We'll see if we'll see more of him in race 2.
Yeah, that was a little surprising. He didn't qualify as well as we normally see him, and then I think he got caught out in some of that extracurricular activity in the opening lap, which really obviously hurt his day.
It did, and then looking down the rest of the order here briefly, there's all I can show you. Let's go back and have a look at the run to the checkers, though, and it all started with Nicholas Rice-Sputo leading the way, but kind of being a sitting duck. Let's go back a little bit farther than this, and let's show you what happened. Here he is playing defense, but you got to pick a line at some point, and that he did, and opens up the door here for Hibbett, who just takes a big lunge here, but bails out and tries the crossover as you see the 10 run a little wide here, and that opens the door for Hibbett.
Well, I think what made the 10 ride wide was Hibbett pinching him into that first part of it. And so he had the speed, and then he just couldn't get it turned. Oh, that was interesting. You saw, Hibbett was pinched. Car got a little crossed up, and there was, I think, a little tap between the two of them. But yeah, look at that move. But, when you go back a little bit farther as they're approaching, you can see that Camden staying put where he was really squeezed Rice-Sputo. And then right there, look at that little step out.
Yep, there was a little contact, though, but Hibbett was as far on the curb as I think you can be. But here's this run up to roller coaster again. Here's Camden, looks right. The 10 protects to the right, opens Camden up on the left. And right there, I think the 10 just kind of outbreaks himself a little bit, gets in there hot, and then the 132 crosses him over. And then on the run down here, yeah, it really was. But then here into Hogpen, you have to commit big time here, and Camden leaves plenty of space right there. The 10 tried to turn in, but the 132 was already through. And that one little contact probably kept the 10 from crossing over and doing the reverse of what Hibbett did at turn 15.
Right, but did you also notice what impressed me was Hibbett, he sort of pitched it into 17, and that allowed him to exit tight, which is right where Rice-Sputo was going to want to go anyway.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He didn't use anywhere near that entire track out. So Hibbett really, it was a great strategy. But look where he exited. And had Rice-Sputo been able to do the over/under, that's right where he would have wanted to be. Yeah, and I think behind them, if Beans and Piatek had been lined up a little better, maybe they could have shoved the 10 past. But they just ran out of straightaway at this point. But Camden still had to play defense down the front straight a little bit, but managed to hang on and get his first win in the full send Spec Miata series. Well done. Yeah, that was from that last little bit of that Madison Avenue all the way to the checkered flag. Camden played a brilliant game of chess. He did, and we're going to get to see it one more time. We got another race coming up. Yeah, and that's one of the things we love about this is a couple of options to be able to go racing here and having some fun with it. And like I said, just want to remind everybody once again, a huge thanks to Rob Greenwood, Final Turn Motorsports, and Frank Rodriguez and 3P Logistics for their support. Please go to finalturnmotorsports at gmail.com and ask about their new Kart to Cars program, or do some racing in the SCCA and other categories in the Spec Miata. Same thing with 3P Logistics and Frank Rodriguez. Info at 3P-logistics.com. check that out. If you're looking to get into racing, they can take you from the driver school scenario all the way up to getting your license. And of course, massive thanks to Court Schmidt, Full Send Sims. Remember that they have their sims, they're available. They have a trailer with 2 sims. They're at racing venues where you can live on site. If you need to work on a spot, you can't get on track to do it, you could do it in one of their sims. Or if you're having a function and you want to have some sims there, whether it's for fun or for additional training, they have that rig. You can rent it out. They will come and take care of that for you. So check in. Once again, easy to do, fullsendsims.com. All kinds of information there. Remember, they continue to have one-on-one instructions available with 2-time champ Morgan Burkhart, Ben Beans Forrester, and Conrad Chachik as instructors. They have racing schools. Next racing school, right before our race in this series at Daytona International Speedway on the road course, September 14th, will be the Daytona International Speedway racing school. Free to members. And if you're not, you can still join, just a slight fee. So you may want to be doing that. Check that out. That's this Thursday. Then, of course, next Tuesday, we're at Daytona. So everything's sort of done with something in mind here, isn't it, in terms of helping people, whether it's at an actual event where there's going to be an actual race held, or at our next sim race. They've really planned this third season out brilliantly, Kyle.
They really have, and tying it in with real-world events as well as having their racing schools. And I think it really ties together the experience of iRacing or simulated racing in general, and using the sim for more than just driving, but also as a learning tool, I think is a really nice approach to really fully take advantage of the level of simulation that we have nowadays. Well,
and it pays dividends, and that's why Full Send Sims, their slogan is "Practice makes podium." And I was at the SCCA National at Sebring this year, and they had the rig there, and there were the occasional people that came in, paid some money to just play on it, but more often than not, there was a racer and their coach that were sitting in that side-by-side sim. They were either doing lead follows, or the coach was on a headset standing behind the student, and there's a monitor wall in there too where you can look at all the students' data and do live coaching to work through. I'm really struggling at this sector. It's really, really remarkable what they're doing.
And I've actually even seen, you're familiar with Kenton Cook, who's a Rolex 24 winner in the Prototype Challenge category, and current sports car driver. He still uses iRacing as a tool and talks with a lot of his students about their iRacing. And one of my favorite features, not to sell the sim, but to the experience with Court, but you can actually export Motec data out of iRacing and directly compare it with real-world data on these laser scan tracks, which I think is a crazy awesome tool that you can just export, the same throttle and brake and suspension traces or anything else that you'd like to look at, the same way that you could in a real car, and you can compare data directly, which I think is fascinating.
It is, and I mean, as you said, an incredible tool to just take you to that next level, and be able to really stand out not only in sim racing but in real world as well. I mean, back in the '60s, the only way Apollo astronauts could land and walk on the moon was sim training. It's that steeped in success.
I was just fascinated by the animation here of the starter was leaving the flag. Look at him looking off into the distance there, and he's got his flag perched there, right there. He leaves it sitting. And I was joking with DJ Clark, one of my co-announcers at World Challenge. He always says, "Drop the green flag" on the initial start. And that Tom Hansing, the flagman, got mad at him because he's like, "I don't ever drop the green flag." And then that weekend, the guy that Tom couldn't make a race, and so they had someone else flagging. And at VAR, he did drop the green flag, and it fell out of the flag stand and onto the racetrack. And I just thought that was great. So
that's irony right there.
Never leave the flag sitting on that flag stand.
Nope. I learned that the hard way, a corner working, and had a yellow flag drop onto the racetrack. So not a good thing.
No,
I got to tell you, folks, if you've never been to VIR, this shot right now, if you're standing and looking up the hill in the early morning light when the sun is low and the grass is a little damp and the track is thus a little bit dark from the moisture, just how pretty this is, you just can't imagine. It really is something else.
And I got the same kind of feeling that I get at Road America with that national park feel. I got it, but like almost in like a picnicking way instead of like a rock climber way, if you know what I mean. Like just these big expanses of grassy fields and tree cover, little pods of tree cover, and the barn-style buildings, and it just really impacted me in a way that I hadn't experienced at a racetrack before. And it's just a really pretty paddock area as well.
It is.
I love Watkins Glen, but the paddock area isn't the most beautiful in the country. But VIR really, the interior of that track, and really the way that you enter it, from the outside, it's great. It really is.
Yeah, it is. When I said it's located right on that border, if they didn't have the guardrail on the outside of Oak Tree and you went off at a decent amount of speed, it wouldn't take you long to end up in North Carolina. It's that close. So, it's just beautiful country. And, they have, a couple of really, really top-tier restaurants on site. They have the villas. They have the lodge. They have, they also do, skeet shooting. They have all kinds of things, as well as off-road training and go-karting. I mean, it really is a motorsports resort. So, pretty special place. And now it's about to get real special for race 2 here of our night here at VIR.
I think the late green flag caught a lot of drivers out last time, but now that they know where it flies, we should have a little bit less stacking up. But the pace car pulls off, and you don't get the green until the flagman waves the green flag, which is going to be a little bit of a while from now, Greg. He's out of sight now if we jump on board Camden Hibbett. He can't even see the green flag just yet.
Yeah, this is because it bends a couple of times, you don't realize how long this run is here. So here we go now. Everybody looking a little bit more circumspect. All right, we're green. And much, much cleaner this time. Let's hope that sticks down through turn 1, 2, and the rest of this opening lap here. And Camden Hibbett leading away. Olivier Piatek up to the inside there. And of the number 10 of Rice Budo, let's see if he's going to be able to hang on to that spot. And no. Looks like Rice Budo able to come out. Is he going to dive down to the inside of Hibbett? He is, down into the turn 3, and Piatek going to follow him right through, and suddenly Hibbett is just getting shuffled back. Skip Brock might go up and grab that 4th spot, and Burkhardt comes through as well. So Hibbett from pole to 5th in just a couple of corners here.
Like he's wearing concrete boots just right to the bottom of the lake in the first couple of corners, and drops to 5th place. So that is not the start he was looking for. But again, you have to get the tires warmed up before you can really charge. One car sideways, it's Court Schmidt.
Oh no. See if Court able to, looks like he's avoided contact here. That's a nice snap spin to get back underway here. And I'll tell you, the guy who maybe had the start was Dean Dibdahl. He is right now, I think, in that 6th spot. There he is. Huge start, 8th up into 6th, and getting around guys like Beans Forrester and Jordan Rixagridi. So Dibdahl doing a superb job.
Yeah, doing a nice job there. A little bit of contact behind them. Rice Budo trying to weave to break that draft, leaving the corner. Not technically a block, but there is a crossover point when weaving becomes blocking, and that's something you don't want to dance too much with. Here comes Burkhardt on Skip Brock Jr. up driver's left on the backstretch.
Yep, he got that great run, as we've been talking about, out of Oak Tree, which is actually turn 12, and gets to the inside. Now Brock, though, has position, and Burkhardt, instead of trying to force the issue, again, that just shows his savvy. Way too early to do anything that could maybe cause him to lose that group up front. And, he's going to fight hard to pick that spot. But, I mean, right now, our lead group of 7 is covered by less than a quarter of a second, Kyle.
Yeah, it's amazing how close it is. And without Morgan Burkhardt leading this, I think it's going to get pretty interesting here. Not everyone's going to play the game that they would normally play with Morgan out front. You couldn't battle. Right now, I think they feel like they can, and Piatek and Skip Brock Jr. go side by side.
And Skip had the idea there, but Burkhardt just dove to the inside, glommed onto the back of Piatek's bumper, and froze Skip out. And that might even let Hibbett come through now. Skip, though, has that inside line, and he's going to drift across. And all of this is keeping Dibdahl, Forrester, Rixagridi is closing up quickly as well. So we hop on board with Camden. And you can see up front, all of that little bit of jostling has given Rice Budo a little bit of a break.
Yeah, not for long, though. Morgan Burkhardt did get to second place. And
boy.
You'll also notice, Greg, that there is shade over the racetrack as well. The clouds have rolled in, and the track is in shadow. And what that means is the track temp's going to cool off as long as that cloud stays there, and that'll bring grip levels up.
Right now, Rice Pudo, I don't know that he's going to be able to make the break, but he's going to give it everything he possibly can. Don't get turn 10 wrong so fast. Really nice job. That's always been, one of my commitment meters is how much curb you use at the exit of 10.
And they gave you a little extra.
Yeah, you've got to use all of it if you're going to be really, really fast there. But one step too far through there, and you're off and spinning.
Yeah, you can see where the dirt is kicked up.
Yep.
They added a little extra curbing out there that makes your life a bit easier than it used to be, but it is still a commitment meter, as you name it. Here's Skip Brock Jr. He's fallen to 8th place. I wonder if he had a slowdown somewhere and had to give up some time. It's let Rickson, Greeny, Forster, and Dibdahl through, who's up into 5th and trying to keep it from Beans Forster.
Yeah, and taking a run at, as you said, those two side by side. This is going to be really interesting to see who plays this one the best. If Dibdahl again could stay there, no, he couldn't quite do it. And Beans nicked that curb and almost used that to help him get the rotation to be able to drive down and through. But that little bit has now cost them a little bit of ground here, and we'll have to see now whether Dibdahl's got the pace to stay with Beans and come up here. And here we go. Morgan Burkhardt down to the inside of Rice Pudo. And Rice Pudo, he has got to stay around the outside here.
They touch.
Was that a tap?
Oh, yeah.
Another one maybe, too. And Rice Pudo now, he's got to go straight to the end. He can't do it. Oh, Burkhardt gets crossed up, but another great save by Morgan.
The gloves are off, I think.
I think so.
Knocked into each other once or twice. Morgan misses the apex there big time.
Yeah, he does. This could give, he's going to be really slow here through the snake, but I thought maybe there was $5 coming Rice Pudo's way there, but he backed out of it a little bit. But that is now, look at Piatek, Hibbett. They're all over the back of these two up front now.
I don't think they're Venmoing each other $5. I think they're trying to steal each other's lunch money right about now. It's getting aggressive out there.
Yeah.
And Piatek,
pockets here.
Yeah, Piatek and Hibbett are back in the mix, and Forster and Dibdahl not too far behind.
No, not at all. And then Rickson Greeny, he's gained about 2/10 on the deficit he had. He's still a ways back there. He needs a little bit more help, but still plenty of race left, just under, we've run just, 6 minutes of 20, so still lots to be had here. Nice to see Spencer Conrad after that problematic first race and starting so far back up into the top 15 now, so a good run for him. And Caleb Patry, remember, had that real problem in that first race. I've watched him. He's been in the background, super aggressive, and is knocking on the door now of a top 10.
Yeah, he's working his way up there. He's got Jean Reyes in the 27 just ahead. He's going to hop out to the right. Looks like the 27 might give it to him. And he's got Eric Howo, the next driver that would put him in the top 10 in that 998. Not going to be a great points night for him regardless, but he has some time to recover some of them in this race.
And it's sad, obviously, because he came in here not too far off of Burkhardt. And Burkhardt had an off race for him, and now he is in a scenario where he's up in the lead now. And right now, that Patry is hoping that a teammate Rice Pudo can do something on Burkhardt here and get through it. He set him up, went to the outside. Burkhardt drifted over, and Rice Pudo diving down to the inside. But Burkhardt's got enough of an. Oh! Burkhardt tried to turn in, gets clouded and clouded again. First by Piatek and then Camden Hibbett.
Forster to the lead, and there goes Piatek, still contact.
Still trying to save it. Oh my goodness, what a turn of events here now.
And that will push Patry past Burkhardt and Rice Pudo down to third. So a lot of shifting and shuffling in this race. Jorge Ortiz and Dibdahl get together. Dibdahl using those new grass updates to keep that car clinging to the racetrack, and he'll at least stay pointed the right direction.
Yeah, he is awfully happy for that. And then he and Patry get gobbled up, and now here comes the recovery. 3 abreast. Exit of the snake.
You can't do that.
This is not going to work going in here to these climbing S's.
You can't do that, and they couldn't. Dean Dibdahl cobbles the curb there on the left, and that still
was his
keeps it
only
straight.
hope, or
Yeah.
he was going to get clocked sideways in a hurry. So that was a nice piece of evasive and save by him at this stage. But it really looked to me that Morgan Burkhardt just turned in. I think he thought he was more clear of Rice Puto than you have to go back just a little bit more than that, I think, to find it right there.
Yeah,
you can see the angle he had closing down, and Rice Puto was very clearly there.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one, but
yeah, it is. It is.
He didn't really leave a ton of space there, and even if Rice Puto drifted a little, he didn't have a lot of room. So I'm sure the stewards will decide that later. But go ahead.
And I have to say, from that angle, the first angle looked like Rice Puto was absolutely side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And in that one, Rice Puto was, clearly maybe, nose to front tire back from being completely side by side. But anyway, Beans taking ever opportunistic. Beans Forrester finds himself in the lead, and Rickson Greeny, who was struggling to close down on that top six and was about a second and a half back. Everybody is second.
Yeah, they've replaced one teammate with the other, so I'm not sure if that's a net positive at all, but they've moved Jordan up into P2 and traded him out for Burkhardt, who's now 15th.
And Jorge Ortiz, who in that first race, as we said, was a pinball, has taken advantage. I mean, he drove massively, aggressively to get back into a semi-decent starting position in that 311 right there. And now with everything that's been going on, I'm sure he's going, I cannot believe I'm in the top 5.
Knocking on the door of a podium, he gets one more spot.
Yep, and look who's lurking back there in that red number 998. Caleb Patry with all of that up into 7th.
Working his way forward, Josh Soto. Not sure if this is a paint scheme I'm supposed to be saying or not, but different colors on board the number 77.
Sure is.
Yellow and black. I think his paint scheme just isn't loading, which is probably why he's these colors. But
okay.
Oh, no, that is his colors. He's got his name on the side there, so this is the livery we're supposed to see. Means it's new
the
colors.
Numbers aren't loading or something.
Yeah. I think he's got a black number background, and the number itself is black, so that's probably why that's happening. Look at this. It's a big mess here.
Rice Puto running wide. Ortiz diving down underneath.
Let's go 3.
And Soto now going to go for a 3 abreast attempt here. He's got position. Ortiz is squeezing him mightily. And for Ortiz, he was so worried about Soto that looks like that has just let Rice Puto go steaming back by here. They're still, though. And finally, Ortiz goes, yeah, this is not on here.
Oh, it's going to get tight.
Oh,
little wheel-to-wheel contact. Rickson Greeny's off at 15, and oh boy, it's still. Look at Hewo into the mix now. Where did he come from?
What a launch by Hewo up here. And Patry right behind Hewo, and right behind him is Piatek and Dibdal, who not that long ago were 4th and 5th.
All the while, Beans Forster trying to run away. 0.8 of a second is almost clear of the draft. He needs another 2 or 3 tenths to really break it and then drive perfect. Good luck. I mean, it's tough out there when the draft will bring you in a couple tenths a lap.
And the best thing for Beans right now is having these guys duke it out behind him here. And there we see it. Hewo down to the inside of Rice Puto down into turn 1. I wonder if Rice Puto maybe has something like a toe out or something wrong on that car.
It's possible. I don't see a lot of damage. But
I don't see damage, though. Yeah,
you can bend stuff up without massively damaging the bodywork, so that's a consideration. That's a big cut there on the inside of left hook. But still P5. He's got plenty of time. 8 minutes to go. It's about 3 laps worth of racing next time by.
Well, look at this train right now. Forster has that little margin, and then that next group all the way back to Dibdal are covered by virtually next to nothing. I mean, that's 8 cars from 2nd to 9th that are covered by the proverbial blanket here. Then a little bit of a gap back to Schweid. Hibbett trying to recover and got Spencer Conrad chomping at him. Whoop. And wow, Hibbett ran a little wide there.
Chomped.
And remember now, chopped. I said that. Yeah, obviously.
Trouble up front. Soto's off course.
That looked like it was Soto and Rice Puto maybe having a moment here.
Soto goes out.
And he ran wide, and Rice Budo.
And then they got together.
And Haywo said, thank you.
+2.
And even Piatek there. Yeah, nice move by Piatek. But Hibbett, I understand why he's struggling a little bit, because he got pretty solidly into Burkhardt. And I've got to believe he's got some damage on that car. And Burkhardt, by the way, is out, folks.
Yep, retired, position number 25. Having a look here at Hibbett's car. And yeah, that's a pretty shortened up nose on this car. Now, iRacing did just make some changes also to the damage model in general that reduces your straight line loss and provides a more downforce loss, but that really applies to cars with wings and things. This is not going to affect this car in a beneficial way at all.
Yeah, seriously, and he's clearly struggling. I mean, looking at his lap times now, he's running 2:18s.
Jorge Ortiz.
The guys in front are in the 2:16s. Oh, Ortiz, boy, he is on form, isn't he?
He is, and trying to get by Rick Singrini to set his sights on Forster. Forster's gap is still 8-9 tenths of a second. It's bigger than it was last lap by a tenth or two.
And Rick Singrini had to fight like crazy, but was able to hang on. And Haywo really early turn in to turn number 4 into left hook. And that just slows your exit up. It helps protect. Oh, Soto, big moment, big save. And I don't know whether he just got the curb or whether he got tapped here. I think he and Piatek. Oh, it's going to be Patry.
Yep, I think he turns in there, and yeah, a little bit of net code there as well. That didn't assist, but got it back straightened. Exactly. It just drops to 13th.
Well, this is some absolutely insanely fierce racing. Yeah, Soto right now right behind Jordan Butler. But Haywo and Ortiz, man, they have been some serious beneficiaries here.
They have, and Ortiz is still working over Rick Singrini. Took a swing at him at Oak Tree, but didn't get by. But it's 8 tenths of a second up to Forster, and if they don't get formed up here, Greg, we only have 2 laps to go next time by the stripe, and Beans has a 9/10 of a second advantage.
Yeah, and they've got to just figure out a way to get to him here. And the thing is I think Ortiz he's just in a scrappy mood. He's fighting. And here he comes down to the inside of Rick Singrini, and Beans looking in his mirror has got to be grinning. Now Rick Singrini going to try and get down to the inside, but again, because of where Ortiz was, Rick Singrini had to check up a little bit more than he wanted to avoid contact. Kills that bit of momentum, and he tucks right back in now to third. And I've really got my eyes glued here on Caleb Patry with 2 laps to go. He's up into 7th. Does he have anything? I'm not sure he can get to this lead trio, but he might be able to get to 4th.
Forster's got a smile on his face. He's got an advantage. He's just got to keep it. I think Patry has got to move if he wants to get a top 5 or even have a shot at a podium. That's Rick Singrini that's got that 3rd and final spot on that podium. Here he comes up to the inside of Piatek at turn 1. Then it's Rice Budo, his teammate, and then Haywo in the 25. That'll put him 4th.
Well, he got around on Piatek, but now he's on the outside, wrong part of the track, and there goes Rice Budo. Now Rice Budo, though, got a great run, and there you can see Haywo really protecting. I have a feeling he's been surprise passed into turn 4 before.
What makes you think that?
Because every lap when somebody's close, he drives right down the middle of the track. It's like, I'll give it up on the exit into the snake here. I just don't want to get past there. And oh no, Dibdall, did he get a slowdown? Looks like it.
Yeah, I think he was kind of offline entering snake, and if you're offline once, you're offline everywhere. Side by side to the S's for Haywo and Rice Budo, and Patry tries to go the long way around. Can't do it.
Yeah, it was a nice thought by Patry, just in case those two guys got caught up a little bit, but they didn't give him anything at this stage. And here we go up into Oak Tree, and look at the run that Rice Budo gets. He drives that incredibly well already on the back of Haywo. And Rick Singrini hanging on, but here we go. Here's the battle now. And I don't know that Rice Budo knew that Patry was that close. I think he was trying to make the move on Haywo, and Patry had already made that commitment. Now, is Patry going to get them both? Because they were side by side and offering up a heck of a tow. Patry is at least going to get by now on Rice Budo. Couldn't quite get Haywo, but what a run by Caleb Patry.
So he is still climbing his way forward all the while. Forster has put another couple tenths on Rick Singrini and Jorge Ortiz. They have not gotten organized yet, and that's going to cost them because this time through, Greg, there's the white flag.
There it is. 1 lap to go. And Beans Forster, massively opportunistic drive, and it's paying off. Here we go now. Patry and Rice-Puto side by side, and it's Patry on the outside. And let's see, does he have, and coming from way back is Max Schweid, and almost collected Patry.
Where did he come from?
So close. Well, he'd been running. He'd had a good run, was sitting up in that 9th spot.
Oh, I think he just got distracted by Dibdal.
I think so,
and just was looking in the mirror and missed the braking point and just came sailing through that braking zone.
Yeah, it looked like he may have tapped Haywo and maybe grazed Patry, but it certainly now has backed Patry up. That was really costly for Caleb here.
Yeah, P10 now.
And dropping way off. And he'd been up he was in 5th. So that was a 5-spot drop.
Yeah, as far as the points go, it's going to be interesting. I think Rice-Puto is going to come out of this positive and maybe even the points leader. Morgan Burkhardt had a bad race. Caleb Patry had a bad race. Morgan Burkhardt had a good race. Caleb Patry will have an okay race. But Nicholas Rice-Puto should end up, if there's no more dramas, with 2 consecutive top 5s, which would put him at or near the points lead position. So that's going to be a pretty good spot for him. I don't know why it's saying race over just yet. Bear with me on that. But we're coming back to the checkers this time.
Well, and here's something to chew on. As they went to the flag, Forster had a 1.2 second lead. Out of turn 12, he's got a half-second lead.
And
so
it's
I don't know whether
he
made a little mistake somewhere, but Rick Singrini is closing. He's going to have to pull off something magical here, Kyle.
Yeah, he's going to have to nail these last couple corners. He's close, but he's going to really need something special in the last 2 corners to get to Forster. This advantage still 3.5 tenths of a second. He ideally needs it to be nothing. Eric Haywo's had trouble at roller coaster. Last corner.
Here we go. Down through Ogpen, onto the front straight. The margin just under 4 tenths. Should be enough. Beans Forster just straight lining to the flag, going, come on, make it happen. Turns tight and gets the win. Right behind him, Jordan Rick Singrini, a 1/4 of a second behind. Jorge Ortiz, a fabulous drive up onto the podium. And here comes Camden Hibbett trying to do anything he can. Just where did he end up here? He ended up in 8th after having started on pole after winning the first one here. What, again, an eventful race. This one, the eventfulness came after later in the race for sure. The first one, it was all happening in those first couple of laps.
Yeah, lots of dramatic moments in that race, and more than I think we're used to up front in particular. Once Morgan Burkhardt kind of got booted, it really changed the dynamic up front, and Forster was just he took the lead when Morgan got turned and just never looked back.
Yeah, and that last lap, he ran a 2:16.8, Rick Singrini a 2:15.9. So it was pretty close. And Beans getting a win. How about that?
I didn't even know you could spin the tires on these cars with the horsepower and slicks that it's got, but doing a burnout and celebrating. Is this his first win, Greg?
This season, I think it might be.
Yeah, it hasn't come his way. Yeah, so
it is. Yep. So this is big, and it was such a great opportunistic piece of driving by him to grab that. As you said, I mean, the guy who's put together 2 pretty solid races is Rick Singrini. Ortiz, what a ride, what a drive for up into 3rd, Rice-Puto 4th, and in the wars, all of this race, and Olivia Piatek somehow still ends up in the top 5.
He has managed to put himself there, and that's all that you need to do for points is put yourself in position, and he's taking advantage. Gene Dibdal, another good night for him. There was a bunch of times, Greg, he was 3 wide going into the S's, and every time it looked wild, but he got it sorted out. Top 10 for him in I think
that's his best finish of the year, too, yeah.
I think so.
And Spencer Conrad, who qualified pretty well, had that awful first race, fought his way up into 7th. So a good run for him. And for Caleb Patry, it's really kind of, coulda, woulda, shoulda, because I think he had the pace to be 4th. And then it was Max Schweid who just came steaming up. And I think you're right, got distracted by Dibdall and just missed his braking point.
Yeah, and if you miss it, there's no recovering it here. Kinked braking zone, no pavement runoff. It's tough. Joshua Soto, P11, then Jordan Butler, Rocco Pasquarella, Jim Friedhofer, and Rich Green. And then Court Schmidt, early spin, recovered to a top 20, 17th place. And Eric Hewo, again, off at roller coaster on the final lap. He was trending to have a top 5, Greg, and it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was sitting in 4th when that last lap started, so that's really unfortunate. You hate to see that kind of thing here. And really happy for Rich Green. You remember he was hit and knocked off in that very first lap of the first race. And for him to auger his way back into a top 15, pretty darn good.
Yeah,
well done.
Look at the rest of the order there. There's a big list of outs, a lot of big ones, including Morgan Burkhardt and Skip Brock Jr. collected in that collision. And unfortunate end to Morgan Burkhardt's day. But let's talk to Morgan Burkhardt. Race 1, but where did he end up in race 1? Did he win race 1? It was race.
He was second in race 1.
But didn't come home on top in race number 2. Morgan Burkhardt, 25th and retired in race 2. Morgan, not the night that I think you were expecting. A little bit of dramas down there at turn 1. What happened from your POV?
Yeah, and it was definitely a night to forget. It's a good thing we got some drop rounds, but I tried to kind of make it real uninviting to go down the inside into turn 1. Nick was kind of there, and then I gave him a car width, and it ended up not working out, and got turned around, and then people trying to scramble out of the way and didn't really have anywhere to go and just hit me broadside in the middle of the track. And after that, just had a meatball, and it was really bad to drive after that. So called it quits, but yeah.
Yeah, it looked in that incident, from one angle, it looked like he was all the way up alongside you, and that you kind of were turning in. Another angle, he wasn't quite all the way alongside, and it just looked to me, that it was just a matter of angles. You know what I mean? That you were turning in, you did have that room, and he was in a little tighter and thus floating out. And it just a tap, and it was so unfortunate that the other guys got into you.
Yeah, it really is just unfortunate. I mean, the angle that I tried to pinch him down, make a really shallow angle to the corner, and I guess I just turned in just a little too early and didn't give him enough time to turn in. But at the end of the day, it's just unfortunate.
Sure, and you had, obviously, doing that little bit of a pinch, I've always said you don't have to make it easy, but you just have to make it possible, and you certainly did, but you did make it, tough, but that's part of the game, and we know you'll be back, even though this round didn't go well for you. You like VIR? You like this track?
I love VIR. I've had really good success in the real world here. Especially in the rain, but this track is so much fun. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got the high speed, it's got the low speed, and it's got a lot of real chain corners. And what I mean by that is it's not like South Bend is not really what I would call a chain corner. It's a left-hander. It's a hard left-hander, but the snake, basically from 3 to the bridge is a chain. So it's left, right, left, right, left, right, and it's all you're loading the car up and swapping loads on different sides, and it's interesting and it's difficult to do right.
Yeah, they're so connected, and if you get one wrong early, if you don't slow down and get back online, you're just struggling for the rest of it and everything. And it's such a beautiful venue as well. Morgan, sorry for having one of those days. When it happens here, we know you'll be back swinging at our next round at Daytona.
Oh, for sure.
Thanks, Morgan.
All right, man.
Move on now to talk to his teammate, Jordan Rick Singrini, who brings his number 108 car home in second. Jordan, pretty tough fight out there tonight. Just couldn't quite get back to beans in the closing laps of race 2. I know you had a good battle there with Jorge. Take us through your excitement tonight in climbing your way forward to P2.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun, interesting one. I was actually hit rolling off a grid from the car behind me and pushed me into Morgan. And so I had car damage to start that race, and it felt slow down all the straightaways the entire race. So I was on the back foot, and I don't know what happened with the scuffle between Morgan and Nick up ahead, but I went from kind of deep in the pack to trying to just score some championship points. So all of a sudden I was in second behind Beans. And then from there, me and Jorge had a good fight. I think he got a slowdown like I had in the first race, and Bean stayed just really consistent and drove a good race and was able to manage that gap really well. So kudos to him. I tried coming in at the end, but just wasn't enough and didn't have the car for it, but it was definitely fun.
Well, your last lap you ran was 9/10 quicker than Bean's. And so you really had, were closing up on him. You just, you needed one more lap maybe.
Yeah, that was a full send lap, that last one. Once I started white flag, I was letting it all hang out there since I knew I didn't have the motor.
Well, with this finish, and then you had an okay finish in that first one with the problems for a number of the others in this race, you might be the one that comes out of here with the biggest points haul. So you got to be kind of pleased with that, huh?
Absolutely. That was the goal for this season. So it's been off to a rocky start so far, but turned around last week and then another decent week this week.
It absolutely did. And, it was interesting to have Jorge come up. He was, we talked about it. He was a pinball in that first race, just got beat around, but taking advantage of some opportunity and getting up. Have you raced door to door with him a fair bit?
Honestly, no. In the first race of the year, we kind of scrapped a little, but I haven't seen him since then. So the later half of this race was really our first seeing, and we went back and forth a good bit.
Yeah, it was some great racing, and what I'm always getting at there is, sometimes you get somebody that comes up that you haven't done a lot of door to door with, and you don't really know their tendencies. And you guys had a really great scrap, and a really solid podium finish here. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. Thank you, Kyle.
Of course, Jordan. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Let's move on now to our race 1 winner. Camden Hibbett won race number 1 and came home in 8th in race number 2. Didn't quite pan out that second time in the race 2 of the night, but race 1, you snuck through there and stole one. Take us through that dramatic last lap, getting up to the front.
Yeah, it was an interesting finish for sure. I wasn't really expecting to. I didn't really want to go where I ended up going, if that makes sense. I was trying to. He had been outbraking himself the past 2 or 3 laps in that spot, so I figured he was either going to make a mistake or underbrake. So I was trying to outbrake him into I think that's roller coaster, and he just went straight on, and I was slow. I was checked up enough where I could get back underneath him, cross him over, and it was pretty much a drag race from there on. I figured I had to get the move done before the final corner, because I struggle in the final corner for whatever reason. I don't know. Just I don't like how the final corner is laid out. So I figured I had to get it done before then, so that's why I was driving super aggressive and coming into hog pen. But yeah, it was a wild race. It was great racing with Nick, as always. It was super clean, super fun.
Well, and I'll tell you what, that move, the initial move you made, it looked like that, pinched him. It just pinned him, so he had a little bit more speed than he could actually do the angle. And, when he ran wide, but the impressive thing to me, and I said to Kyle, on that last lap, all the way from the entry to roller coaster to the checkered flag, you played a great game of chess, because once you pinned him there and he ran wide, you got to you had to stay on the outside through 15 and 16, which isn't easy enough. And then when you exited hog pen, I don't know whether this was intentional. I know you got the curb a little bit there, but you could see he was trying to square you up and get underneath. And you exited right where he was trying to go, and that he just had to check up again. So even if that wasn't intentional, it was still. I mean, like I said, it was a great game of chess.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to give him a taste of his own medicine a little bit, because coming out of Oak Tree, he checked me up too. Well, actually, I guess it was going into Oak Tree, but right in the middle there, he kind of backed up to me, which actually I think ended up helping me. I think I had a little bit of nose damage or something. I didn't feel it quite as strong in the draft. So I think that actually helped me getting more tucked underneath him and get next to him early. And then, it's a weird entry, that brake zone. If you're on the or I guess on the right side of the track, you have to turn the middle of the brake zone, and you have to almost come out of the brakes almost completely. And it's a really weird brake zone when you're too wide. And I've found that I think personally I'm more comfortable on the left side of that brake zone. Okay. So I don't know if he just outbroke himself because he has little experience, having to lift in that brake zone a little bit. But yeah, out of hog pen, I wasn't really trying to check him up, but I kind of underdrove the corner a little bit, just to make sure I didn't run up into him. And it ended up working in my favor to check him up a little bit, and ended up beating him to the line there. I think it was 98 thousandths or something like that, tenths of a second.
Yeah.
It was really tight.
Really, really close. And obviously it was apparent after you, in the second race, when you got into Morgan, when he got hit and spun right in front of you, you had some serious damage because your lap times just started dropping.
Yeah, the draft was pretty much non-existent at that point. I was almost losing people down the straightaway. The only way I could even hang with anybody in the draft was when I was within a tenth of a second. So it was a unfortunate break, but looking back at it, it was just a racing deal. I was thinking Morgan was gonna hold the brakes and just kind of lock it down in the middle of the track, and he got hit again and thrown right into my lap. So it's what it is. It's a racing deal, but it was fun racing with I think it was Spencer Conrad.
Yeah.
At the end there. So yeah, fun racing all night though.
Yeah, well, and a great job in that first race. Just some absolutely great driving, and you're when we get you on camera while you're driving, you've got a serious focus going, and we saw you make that pass, and when you crossed the line, we saw just the slightest hint of a smile, and we went, "He's a happy guy, Camden." Awfully well done, bud.
Thank you.
Thanks, Camden. Have a good night.
Thanks, you guys too.
All right, Olivier Piatek up next. Olivier was up in the top 5, I think, in both races, Olivier. So nice, good, solid top 5, especially in race number 2. Just couldn't quite get up onto the podium there in that second race. Take us through your evening and battling up front. It was quite a fierce fight with elbows out, especially in the second race.
Yeah, race 1, I just worked with Skip, and we just stayed with the front, really let the race come into me. I made contact with Morgan. It wasn't really anything intentional. It was just iRacing netcode. I didn't even touch him, to be honest, and spun him. Felt really bad. And then last corner, they all checked up, and I just sent it and got third on, what's his name? Yeah, I got third. And then race 2, it was just honestly a mess. I mean, I was trying to be smart and just sit back and let the wrecks happen, but wreck happened right in front of me. And yeah, I even recovered, and then I just got hit from behind, put me down out of the top 10, and I was able to recover to 5th, but I feel like I had a lot more potential to win.
Well, I would agree. I mean, your pace and your racecraft tonight was just really, really stout. I was going to ask you because, you said it was a mess. This second race in particular, it just looked like, instead of everybody just sort of, minding their P's and Q's, trying to stay together, work together and everything. This race, and Kyle, you can, jump in here too. About halfway through, it looked like everybody went out of hell with it and just started seriously getting after each other. It was just frantic compared to other races we've had this season.
Yeah, I mean, as Morgan said, he said he had a literal target on his back. I mean, everyone wanted to beat him, and gloves were off, and, wrecks started happening, and then once one wreck happens, everyone just loses it, and it's like they all just want to wreck each other. And I think I only made like one pass that whole time, and the rest of the positions I got were just letting them wreck. I mean, yeah, it was just way too aggressive. Everyone wants to get a podium out of VIR, and it just happened.
Yeah, and we had speculated during the call too that when Morgan ended up out, down the order and out, that maybe everybody else said this could be a chance for us to win. It just went crazy on it.
I mean, most of the front runners got together. I mean, it was me, Nick, Morgan. I think Camden got involved in it. I mean, it was we kind of gifted Beans the win. So no offense to him, but
yeah.
He should give us a thanks or something for that because we just gave him a nice little free win. But yeah, no, for sure. I mean, still a good race by Beans, but yeah, it was just an absolute mess.
Yeah. Kyle, I think we had a VIR free-for-all.
It definitely was like that at times tonight. But hey, Olivier, nice work tonight. Top 5 in both races and a podium. So great work.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on now. We got 2 more to do. Let's talk to Nicholas Rice-Puto, who ended up finishing out race 2 in 4th and race 1 in 2nd. Elbows out is what we've been talking about in all the interviews here, Nicholas. It got argumentative out there at times. Take us through your evening battling up front with Morgan and Jorge and Beans and everybody else.
I'm a little disappointed, I don't know when I'm gonna win one of these, but it was fun though. It was a lot of fun. Morgan and I on that second race seemed like he turned down into me. I'm not sure though. What do you guys think?
Well, I had mentioned from the first angle I saw, that was my take. Then we went to a high camera, and there it looked like just angles. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
there was, I think, a car width there, but you had turned in, and so you just tracked out a smidge as he was tightening his arc into the turn, and you guys just touched.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, it kind of depended on the angle. So obviously, we'll let our wonderful Chief Stewart have a look at it. But at the very least, it was just incredibly close racing. So.
Yeah,
and he mentioned that he was trying to make that lane really narrow for you to try and dissuade you, but he gave you enough and you went for it, and that's that's part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but you come in here. We've been talking about Caleb Patry being second to Morgan, but you're only 2 points behind Caleb. And I think you're going to end up here maybe coming out with the best points haul. So you got to be kind of pleased with that, huh?
Yeah, it was a good night for sure for points.
And other than the incident with Morgan, did you feel like tonight was just a little more unleashed in a way than the other nights?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought so too. It just had that feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you like scrapping like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell.
I don't like when it's used against me. Trying to get angry.
Of course not. Of course not. But yeah, I mean, it just tonight, and Kyle, I think you'd agree. This one was more, well, not just slightly more, very unpredictable compared to any of the other races we've had.
It definitely felt that way. And we just watched on the replay Nicholas Ricewood taking all 4 tires off the ground on the run down through Hogpen. I think, Nicholas, is it fair to say that that this racetrack, because you have to carry so much speed, it's such a momentum magnet that you just have to commit huge everywhere. And if you don't, you're slow. So you just have to commit, and sometimes you're committing side by side.
And you got to commit on your passes too. It's like you got to go for it or you don't. And if you kind of half commit, you're gonna hit them anyway. So you got to go for it.
Yeah, be decisive when you decide to go, right?
Yeah, that's the word for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, you were, and you end up with a couple of really solid races. Not the win. We know it's coming. We know it's coming, man. But well done tonight. Really, really nice job considering all of the craziness out there.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, man. Have a good one. We'll see you at Daytona.
All right, I'll see you.
All right, let's move on now to the final driver. We've been waiting a while to talk to him. Beans Forster snags his first win of the season. Beans, hey, congratulations, man. That was fun to watch. The kind of seas parted ahead of you, then you just played defense the next couple of laps, put in some really good, solid laps, and kept Jordan and Jorge behind you. So that's got to feel great to steal one and to be able to hang on to it for 6 or 7 laps.
Yeah, that was a wild ride, especially after what happened in race 1 on the start there. Just getting bumped into the cars in front of me. And then with that whole wild escapade that happened, I had some bent steering. So I'm surprised I even took 6 from Jordan, but he overdrove his car a little bit on race 1. And then in that wreck that happened in race 2, I was on the brakes, but I thought that if I just let off and sneak down on the inside, I'll have to put 2 off. But I figured it was safer for everybody else behind me instead of just parking it right there. So I just put 2 on the grass and sent it.
Well, and it paid off. I mean, it was a great call, and it was an opportunistic run that popped you up there. And just so you know, in that mess at the start of the first race, that push that eventually got into you was like 4 cars deep behind you. It was just unbelievable. It was 1 car into the next, into you, kind of a deal. So yeah, you just kind of got taken out there, but just a brilliant run. And when that melee is coming in front of you, obviously you've got to make a decision in one hell of a hurry.
Yeah, it's definitely. I got to say that's definitely one of my strong suits, is being able to make those split-second decisions. And it popped up. I saw that there was almost enough for a car width, and instead of driving into everybody else, just get around everybody. And hopefully help save the guys behind too. So it worked, and it played out well for me. Happy.
Yeah, it did. And clearly, just that little bit of extra pace by running a bit lighter without the beard.
Yeah, a little bit of weight reduction. I gotta take what I can get.
I was sitting here all night when we cut to you, and I'm going, what is different here? And then it suddenly dawned on me, it's the porn star mustache.
I was thinking about beforehand switching my my name in iRacing to Officer Farva real quick for the race, but I figured I don't want him to get the boss angry.
There you go. That's brilliant, man. Well, absolutely, just a great opportunistic drive in this second race. Well played, man, and back in winner's circle for you.
Yeah, I'm happy. Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks, Beans.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Yeah, you too.
Greg, VIR never disappoints. It's just such a thrilling racetrack. High velocity, high intensity, high commitment. Had some awesome moments tonight, especially that run back to the checkers in race number 1. That was a really fun one. Here's one last look at that run to the line, but this is the ending of the first race. Got wild down here in the last couple corners, Greg, but we were got to see some really entertaining shoulder-to-shoulder racing tonight and some drama to boot.
Absolutely. And like I said, the only way that Camden was going to make that stick is he had to be able to stick with it and flat-footed around the outside, and then make sure that he didn't get squared up on the exit. And he just drove that whole section just beautifully. We heard him say that some of it was was maybe a little less intentional than he was planning, but it sure worked. And it was a great run, and such fun. And then for Beans, sometimes on this track, we saw the craziness, the insanity, and he was just far enough back that he was able to pick his way through. And that's part of the game too. When others lose their head, be there to pick up the scraps. And Beans was feeding mightily here in this second race.
Yeah, one last look through the results before we sign off for the evening. But the calendar is just exceptional this year for this group. And Greg, we've gotten some great racetracks on the calendar out of the way so far. We're about halfway through the season. But coming up next, we go to the biggest and then the smallest tracks on the schedule.
I know, it's just crazy, isn't it? We go to Daytona International Speedway. And, quick question, Kyle. Do you think the draft's going to make a difference there?
I think so. It didn't really so much the last time we went there
that's true.
because of the setup we were running, but that's changed a lot. So
yes,
I think it is going to be a big deal. Maybe not so much at the track that follows that. That's Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, that one, that's the bull ring. And I love it. Going from the high banks to the 1.5 mile bull ring is just going to be such a fun deal. Then the Glen running the Cup course. So talk about flow and speed there. Then Road Atlanta, which is another one, and then ending up Sebring. I can't wait for Sebring on the club course too. That's going to be fun. And want to remind everybody once again, this Thursday is going to be a driver's school for Daytona. And remember, then next Tuesday is where we're going to be racing. So if you're not familiar with that track, if you have run it but you struggle there, you just want a little bit of extra oomph, check out that school. I think it'll be hugely beneficial. And once again, Virginia International Raceway, where the runoffs are unfolding in a couple of weeks. So glad everybody who might be running there had a chance to run here. And Kyle, the season continues halfway through, and it's going to be a fabulous second half.
Oh, I can't wait. Daytona, the High Banks coming up next week. And then Lime Rock Park in Connecticut. And that'll kick things off for the tail end of September. Then Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, and Sebring. Greg, final thoughts here on VIR before we head to the High Banks next week in Florida.
I love this venue. I know you do too now that you've been there in person, and it is a very special place, but so are so many on this schedule. And we're so happy, all of you that are tuning in, we're able to do that and watch this coverage of an absolutely insane couple of races here tonight. Please do tune in for the rest of the year. We'd love to have you with us. Once again, for Kyle and for Finian, who does an awful lot of work behind the scenes as well, I'm Greg Creamer. A treat to have all of you with us, and we will see you next Tuesday night from the high banks of the World Center of Racing. See you then.